when it's time to heal and feel, be real. You just gotta take your time, unwind and chill. Cause now it's time to love yourself. Build emotional and mental health. Cause Black woman, it's time to heal and feel, be real.
Welcome to Black Woman Healing,
where we heal on the daily.
All right, y'all. We have a special guest as usual, but before we jump the gun, we want to lean into our Black Woman Healing appreciation segment. And so this one comes from Substack. I recently wrote an article about the weight and wisdom of being the eldest daughter, and we had Jocelyn Burnett who left a comment, and what she said was, as an Afro-Latina eldest daughter and decolonized therapist, this is definitely hits home for me. No one talks about the script that was written for us. We're the main character in a story we're playing parts at that we've never learned, I guess is what she's trying to say. Breaking away from what comes with carrying that role is heavy, but once you come out on the other side, it's an amazing feeling. If y'all are not over in the Substack streets, I be writing my heart and soul out. I be treating it like it's my diary. And so I kind of went in on how it feels to be the eldest daughter. I want to encourage y'all to go on over there, but I want to bring it back onto this week's episode. We have a special guest, my homegirl that I see at the gym every day. This is Chaun. Chaun Lewis-Green is a Brooklyn-born facilitator, coach, and emotionally intelligent leadership guide dedicated to helping people and organizations thrive through vulnerability, connection, and courageous leadership. Basically, my goal of who I aspire to be is who Chaun is. I will pass it over to Chaun to share a little bit more about herself.
Hey, y'all. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here and get into this talk. Yeah, I feel like I've been just ready for an opportunity like this. I got a lot to share, so nothing is off the table. Feel free to ask me anything. I'm ready.
Got permission. We're going to go in, girl. We're going to go in.
Come on, let's see.
No, y'all, it's gonna be it's gonna be cool. Our next segment is things Black women don't say out loud, and something just came up for me. Actually, it's been coming up, but now that I have the space to talk about something that I feel like we don't say out loud is I'm tired of making decisions. Like I just want somebody to make decisions for me for like even a whole day, but a whole week. Oh my goodness, would be lovely. Like you figure it out. You make the decisions, whatever I'm eating, whatever needs to be done around the house. If it's a bill that needs to be paid, I'll give you the money for it. Just figure it out. Make the decision, do the thing. I'm tired, y'all. I'm tired.
I feel that. I totally feel that. I get it. I feel like we have been, like I was saying on our last episode, we have this role of like we show up as mom for everything and everyone. I feel like we also take on the role of so much masculinity. I don't want to be masculine all the time. I think it's cool to have a little bit of it, but to rest in my femininity feels so good. So Danica, I'm with you. But what was coming up for me was like, I just want to be feminine. I just want to I want to be like Sleeping Beauty, but like
Soft
not
love?
actually just like laying there and like everything just gets done and the world keeps going and things get handled and like come wake me up and get me up. Actually, no, don't. Like let me have a choice, right? Like so yeah. Chaun, what about you? What you thinking about what she said?
I think for me, it would be I need help. Help me, please. Come help me. Come do something for me, with me, without me. Help. I think that we're so easy sometimes. I'll say for me, I'm so easy to offer help, but I'm learning how to ask for help more, and that's okay to do. It'd be feeling weird though to asking, but yeah, I'm worthy of everyone's help in the same way that I pour out and help others as well. So yeah.
Love that. Yeah. Uh, today, if you all have listened to the last episodes, the month of March, we're talking about family dynamics in general. So if y'all been tuned in, y'all know what's up. And so today we're going to be talking about how specifically Chaun's relationship with her dad has shaped her. So in starting off and giving us a breakdown of your family unit, let's start there. Yeah. What's your family unit?
Yeah, so we're thinking about family of origin. My family unit would be my mom, my younger sister. We have a 6-year age difference. my grandmother and then like the aunts and cousins that are in proximity. So I grew up in Brooklyn, and so all of us were in a really big apartment complex. So we on one side, grandma's on the first floor, my aunt is on the other building, next floor, cousins over here, other family is walking distance. So like those are the people that I think about when I think about my like home family of origin. My dad actually was not in the household with me, and my sister and I have different fathers as well. So if we're thinking younger, I wasn't really including him as a part of that like family unit. It's my mom, my sister, Nana. That's my family.
I
Mm-hmm.
love that living in the space all together like that. That's something that also came up early in the earlier episode where like this communal, collective, like everybody all hands on deck kind of around type of thing. So that's super cool. I know you mentioned that, your dad, he wasn't there. And well, this is the question because this is my interest. I'm interested. How do you address your father or dad? Do you say, like, what do you say?
I would call him dad. So I'm thinking back, I still have my diary from when I was like 10 or 11 years old. So I have all my entries in there. Even in my diary, I just refer to him as dad. So I also have my stepdad, who's my sister's biological father. But in terms of like my biological dad, I just called him dad. And then even as we met later in life and I started to develop a relationship with him, it was just dad. Yeah. I think as a little kid, I always kind of wanted to like, like say dad. So I was excited to like get reconnected with him and be able to just say dad.
Yeah. I'm curious, how do you talk about, because I know your dad has passed on, how do you talk about your dad with your kids? Like, what do you refer to him as, or how do you? I think I'm curious because I'm thinking about the part of him being incarcerated, but I'm also thinking a part of him not being in your life for a bulk of it. And then I'm thinking about now you have kids. So I'm curious, how do maybe conversations come up with your kids about your dad, or how do you talk about him?
I talk about him. I mean, I call him Grandpa Chucky. That's what I talk to when I'm talking to my son about him and even my bonus daughter. So I have a son that's 3, my bonus daughter's 16. So I just call him Grandpa Chucky. And it's interesting because I can show pictures of him, of like what he looks like. But the time that we spent together, like actually in each other's lives actively, was so short that it's not like I really feel like I always have a lot to pull on in terms of like memories and like this is how he was. So it's a lot more like here's a picture of him, here's a picture of us, like this is Grandpa Chucky. My dad was also in the Air Force, so it's like here's his flag that I got at his funeral service. So it's more so things like that as opposed to like all these stories and like photos and things like that. Yeah, I just use what I got.
What is the story about how your dad came into your life?
Okay, so can I give a disclaimer that this is the story that I feel like the way that I know it. And prior to this conversation, I was thinking like, should I talk to my aunt and like get the story of like what actually happened with him? But I feel like no, I want to keep it based on the story that I have that I've been, that's kind of been within me. And so my dad and my mom met in the Air Force. My mom got pregnant with me. She came back to New York. I think that there was a period of time that they were together living in New York. And that's also my understanding that that's around the same time that he may have gotten introduced to while he was in New York. And he moved back to Virginia where his family is. At some point, he became incarcerated. So I don't even know exactly when. I know that I have pictures visiting him on a trip around maybe like 3. And so like, I don't remember that, but I have pictures and I'm familiar with the pictures. After like 3 or 4, I feel like that's kind of where the gap starts to form. So I guess at some point around then is when he was incarcerated. I have a really vague memory around like 10 or 11 talking to him on the phone when he was like already in already in jail. Um but yeah, it's like I don't really remember. I remember more so telling my best friend about it after it happened that I had talked to him on the phone more than I remember the actual conversation with him. Um, Fast forward from 11 all the way to me being in college, right? And at that point, his wherever he was able to get access to email through the some type of email portal that they had. And so I remember like messaging him back and forth. He also sent me some letters, which I still have. And has the most beautiful penmanship, by the way. I always I'm like, Dad, you were a writer too, because I like like writing and keeping notes. And so yeah, I actually was in communication with him in college, but honestly, by the time at that time, I feel like there was so much happening for me just like in becoming a young adult that like what felt like a priority when I was younger in terms of like building a relationship with him, at that time, I just had so much going on that it was kind of like the thing happening in the background. Like it wasn't really a priority to me. And what's interesting is that I ended up graduating a semester, well, a full year, like walking later than the rest of my friends. And the interesting thing about that is it lines up with the time that he was released and he was actually able to come to my college graduation. So mind you, I hadn't seen him and like really talked to him too much. But the first time I saw him and like have memory of seeing him was at my college graduation, like the day that I walked the stage, like literally walked the stage, come off the stage, and then my grandma, I just had this memory of my grandma being like, Chaun, this is your father, and like almost like presenting him to me. And I
Yeah.
was kind of just like, I don't know, it just felt kind of like, okay, but this is also graduation. And like I feel like there were a lot of competing like prior things happening at the same time. And so it wasn't this like emotional reunion for me. It was kind of like, all right, cool. Like, hey, I'm glad you're here, you know? Not in the sense of having like bad feelings or like harsh feelings toward him, but just like, hey, all right, what's up? Like I just went out with my friends last night, you know, like we're here. I think that day I was actually leaving to go back to New York. So I didn't even like it was literally just like the graduation. He had come down. We went back to my apartment, took some pictures, and then I was on a bus to New York to like go back to New York for the weekend. So that was the reintroduction back into our relationship in my adult years.
You know, Chaun, and you can like tell me your thoughts on this. I wonder if you felt that way because you never missed anything. And I don't mean the actual physical person. I mean the ways in which your family was so involved. Because when you were painting the picture of how you lived, I have
Mhm.
this cousin who she's the same age as my mom. So I always thought she was my aunt until my family set me down and was like, why do you keep calling her your aunt? She is not your aunt. And me being like, well, she my aunt now. I've always called her that. But he helped me raise
Exactly.
us to the point where when I was like 11 years old, she ended up becoming my next door neighbor. And then her daughters moved in further than me and they all helped take care of me. So it was like a core memory of like when we have conversations about my mom being a single mom, it
Mhm.
never clicked for me because I'd be like, how is she a single mom when I got my cousin who lives downstairs? Her kids help take care of me. Then my cousin's mom lived down the street from me. So she would take me to church. She would come pick me up when things needed to get done. And so you
Yeah.
were making me reflect on like when things like this happen and they take place, when you've always been cared for in a such particular way, it's almost like,
Mhm.
yeah, hi. Like, so I'm curious for you, did you feel that way? Was that like what was coming up for you?
You know, I think I feel like that's something I can reflect on now. I don't think that I had, I was thinking about that then. Um, yeah, but I've always had a village of people around me. Like my great grandparents had 12 children, so I got cousins. I got so many cousins and aunts and uncles, and like we spent a lot of time together. And so, yeah, I feel like there's still this feeling, even in his passing, of like, which was complicated because it's like I'm grieving more so what might have happened or like what I thought could have happened, but less about like me actually grieving um what did happen because the time that we had together was just it was so short, honestly.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So if you could, so because I'm hearing more of like now and as you got older, it was more of like a grief emotion that you were feeling. I'm curious to hear a little bit more about that, but I'm also curious about the other side of when you were younger, what emotion
Mhm.
came up for you, or maybe what thoughts or feelings came up for you when you would think about him, like the then versus like the now.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like as a kid, and I can tell you straight up from my diary entries, I have a lot of entries was like, just like, I wonder when I'm gonna see him. And I think that like seeing some of my friends that I had, it's interesting is that one of my close friends in elementary school also didn't have her dad in her life. And so we kind of, that was like a bonding thing that we kind of understood. But then I did have friends, like other close friends who had their dads in their life. And I feel like at some of those points, I'll be like, man, like, I wonder, what it would have been like to do this. Or there was like some sadness or like sense of like, just like missed opportunity of like having him around. But I don't know. That's just my life, I don't have this feeling of like, oh, I just missed out on things because that's not life. That's me kind of like compare it to someone else's story. And the reality is that even though he wasn't there, I grew up well. Like I was cared for. I felt supported. Like I had a village of people around me. My stepdad also, stepped in and like has never treated me like anything other than his child. And so yeah, it's interesting. I feel like in his passing, there were 2 trips that I took, from New York to go down to Virginia to visit him prior to moving to LA. it was like right after I graduated college. I went to go see him twice. And so I have those memories, him teaching me how to drive, like those sorts of things. And just like
Mm.
getting this like what his energy and his vibe was, the way that we are in common, the things that we have in common, which is dope. Um, Grieving him after was very complicated because he passed in January of 2017, and I moved to LA alone in February of 2016. So that means that like I was out here grieving alone. Like I didn't have my family with me, when I was going through that process of grieving. And it was this like he was murdered. And so I feel like there was a lot of things around that was just like really complicated for me to process around him getting mixed up with people. It seemed like he had kind of his communication started to get sketchy after a while. I think that he had also like gotten sick. My last message to him, I was telling him that I was moving to LA. And I was like, yeah, I would love to come see you before I move because, I'm going to be on the West Coast. And he's like, I would love that too, but I've kind of fallen on hard times. Like I've lost my job. And, so I think he had gotten back involved with, not some good situations prior to his passing. And so I think that all of that part made the grieving of him really, interesting. Also getting the phone call that he passed, like, from my mom calling me, she's like, I don't know how to tell you this. And I'm like, well, what is it? Like everybody's blowing me up. Like what's happening? So that was complicated. Taking a couple of days off of work, going to bury him, spending like a day or two in New York, and then I'm right back in LA, back into this new life, like almost like nothing's happened. But yeah. I don't know. Let me know if there's anything else, anything else specific I could share.
No,
Um,
I think that answers the question well. I kind of want to ask a curious question about what has it been like building community in LA, especially when we're thinking about like you hear so many people saying they struggle to build this community, and then you're reflecting on, okay, now I have this thing that I'm trying to figure out how to navigate, and I'm somewhere where I just moved here and I'm trying to figure out how to build community. So I'm curious about the
mhm.
community of things for you, maybe then versus now, and some of the ways maybe you've leaned into community and you found community.
Yeah, at that time, I had already started working and I was dating my now husband. And so I feel like he was a big part of the like emotional support that I had out here. But also like the coworkers that I had at the time, the type of work that I was doing was nonprofit, but it was also very much like we spending a lot of hours together, y'all. We together in the morning till 5. So I feel like I had community there in a neighborhood that was like, I'm looking around at the stores and the people and everything. I'm like, these people like are not like me. Coming from growing up in Brooklyn, used to being around Black people, going to school in DC, and used to being around Black people. I'm used to going to the store and seeing all the things I need in one spot. But now I'm in this area in LA where I'm like, I can't even get the right brush or hair products that I need. Like I gotta go all the way across town to find some hair to like braid my hair. So, that was hard, and there was actually a time that I considered moving.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sean, for giving us some insight onto your experiences with your dad. It sounds like it's been a lot of different transitions, a lot of different feelings. Um, and I just wanted to ask you personally, what role do you think society says our Black fathers play in our lives?
What role do I think society says? I'm finding that lately, I honestly be feeling disconnected from what society says because I look in my like real life and I see something that feels so different than what I might have seen before. So I think society might say that Black fathers are not active, that they're, unconcerned, unbothered, uninvolved in some ways. But when I look at the people in my life, that's not what I see. Right? Like I see my husband, I see my friends who are active and like involved and like not seeing this as it's daddy time, or daddy day. It's like, nah, this is the role. Like this is a relationship that I'm building that's intentional and that's important. And so I'm not sure what society be saying, honestly, because I'm so here. I'm so
Right.
here in the real life of like what I see in my village and in my people. And that's like that because dads are here, dads are involved and they want to be. Like it's something that they take serious and that's important to them, in terms of these kids that they're creating. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
Thank you for sharing that, Sean. You're making me think about this. I don't know if y'all have been seeing it, like these dad stroller runs. Have y'all been seeing
Yeah,
those?
I have.
I especially and they're mainly Black dads, and I
Uh-huh.
love it because I feel like Chicago is just like the mecca for like healing. And when I say that, I mean like just the ways in which they go about healing. Because I first saw this, it was like a dad's wellness circle where they would get together and they would talk about their feelings and how they're processing their version of postpartum and like just all the things and like the dad stroller clubs. And so
Yeah.
now this unit in LA, and it's just been like that gentle reminder of the ways in which the society wants to depict us. mm, it's not all the way true. It's not fair because I see the effort that's going into it. Like, especially like when I see like at our gym, a lot of times when
Mhm.
I'm dropping my baby off, it's dads. Like I'll
Yeah.
see them with their kid having a full blown conversation. And sometimes they stop and talk to my daughter. And I just be like, I love this, like the involvement and just all the different spaces I've been occupying as of lately. Like it's the dads. And I'm like, where's the mom at? And they'll be like, minding her business with her
House
friends.
owner.
I love that.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what I see everywhere that I look, that's what I see, so I don't know what
Yeah.
society's saying, but that's not my reality, you know?
Exactly, I love that.
Yeah, and even in thinking of how you spoke about your stepdad earlier, of like how you said like he stepped in and it didn't feel like that. It didn't even feel like a stepdad. Like he gave you those dad thing. He gave you those things.
Yeah. I still remember a conversation that I had with him my freshman year of college. And I feel like his temperament is just has always been so chill. He didn't come with a lot of pressure, with a lot of like, you can't do this, you shouldn't do that. And, like he came with just like, this is life. Like I feel like he's a real life dad and how he approaches things. And he always really tries to share things about the importance of like taking care of myself and, nurturing my relationship and my marriage. And I still remember a conversation I had with him my freshman year of college. And he was just asking me about like dating and like, and sex and boys. And I felt like I was able to be honest with him because throughout my whole life, he always just had this really chill approach about all those things. I didn't feel like I was talking to, your parent or even in the way I would talk to my mom about it. I was able to just like be so open and honest with him just because of how his temperament always was. Yeah.
Temperament. Yeah. Come on, stepdad or
Yeah.
daddy. Um, this question is something that's coming up for me, so I was gonna ask you.
That's
In
it.
thinking of your past with your biological dad, is
Mhm.
there a way that you wish he showed up more even while he was incarcerated? Like do
Mm,
you ever think about like, oh, if this would have been different, then we could have had a better relationship, although he was incarcerated?
no, I think that the I feel like the way that my dad was depicted for me growing up, it was never anything negative, right? I feel like my mom didn't talk about him much, right? But my grandmother, like that was her baby. She spoke well of him. Like she never said there were never any ill things about him. And so I kind of just always had this feeling of like he can't be here, but he's not a villain. Like he's not a bad person. And so I
Mm,
feel like having the perspective that I have now, just knowing what it means to like be a person on this planet by yourself. And then on top of that, to have children and everyone is navigating all these different things with mental health. I think that my dad was just navigating a lot. And I can't, yeah, it's like, how can you ask someone to give something that they didn't? I don't think he had. I think he did give all that he had.
mm,
And I'm grateful for that. I feel like, yeah, I'm proud of who I am and how I've turned out. And so I don't really have that now around like I wish he would have just did this. Nah, like he wrote, I have his letters. I'm so grateful that he did write me because I actually have his physical letters in his handwriting. I know he also wrote my mom, and I'm still trying to find where those letters were where he was writing her when I was younger. And like I'm in the letters. And so
mm,
nah, I think that his intentions were pure. I think that he did the best that he could do. I do wish that I could have said that to him because I don't know what story and narrative he had around our relationship and like what my perspective was on his parenting. So that is
wow.
one thing that I wish I could have like shared that with him of like, nah, like I turned out well. Like, like you weren't there for that part, but I had good people around me and, I'm still grateful for it. You know?
Chaun, you're making my
Yeah.
brain develop more, like, in this conversation, like, because I think oftentimes, like and I'm working on this with my therapist, oftentimes I think of people as, "You have this role and this title, and I'm expecting for you to show up in a particular way." We kinda talked about this in passing at the gym, but
Mhm.
I'm saying that you're helping my brain develop more because this is the true essence of what it means to see somebody as a person, and I was saying this on the last episode, but I feel like this kinda just made me think a little bit more of, yes, we have these expectations of people because of their titles, because of their roles, but what about the expectations maybe they place on themselves and how that impacts their inability to show up in the ways that maybe we wanted them to? How do we have grace for them? And the grace just keeps going back to we're all human having a human experience.
Yeah. We are. And I'm a parent now too. And so I look at my kids like, I can't do everything for you. I don't want to for any
No,
of y'all. For my
no.
husband, for my children, like that's unrealistic to place that expectation on myself to be everything that they need, to be at
Yeah.
every single thing that they have. Like I'm one person. I'm always gonna do my best, but I ain't gonna always be able to do it, you know? And I feel like, yeah, like that's just the reality of like of what it is. Like I'm still my own person. I came into this experience of life alone. I didn't, even though we've collected and like we make relationships with people and we spend our life with them, we're still ourselves first. And so I can't, I can't be, we can't, nobody can be everything for everybody. And I feel like to have that expectation is just, it's unfair and it's also unrealistic. Like it ain't gonna work.
It ain't gonna work. That's a word. And thinking about the prison jail system in general, how would you say that it impacts father-daughter relationships specifically?
I mean, speaking on my own, I don't know the full nature of like my dad's like charges and like I know it was something around or I think around narcotics, but I don't really know for sure, you know. This is one of the things I didn't want to confirm. I kind of wanted to play it like this is a story that I have, but the narrative that I have about things.
You never
And
was
so
curious, Sean? You never was curious to know?
not really. I mean, not honestly, no. Like I don't. The story that I had was just the one that I was content with. Like I never felt like I needed to know the like that's what I believe for my whole like, you know, for my life growing up. So I didn't really feel this like need to question that. The things I've been curious about was like wanting to know about him more, you know, because I didn't get that as much time with him, but around that, not really. Um but in regards to the question, I think oh, what could be I'm not sure. Like I'm grateful for his letters. I'm grateful for the virtual portal where he was able to email me. I wish I still had that.
Yeah.
Um I I hope, you know, like that the charges that he had and the time that he spent away was worth it. I feel like he came out better and he was like really trying to get himself on a different track. But I feel like I don't know, the whole prison system, that could open up a whole conversation for me because it's just like we just taking people, throwing them away, and then not giving them no resources when they come back out, and that's a whole other thing, you know, like it's not really restorative. And so I feel like I personally believe in a more restorative approach, not just having someone be thrown away, like really figuring out like, well, what happened, y'all? What like why how did you end up here in the first place? Why were you using in the first place? Like how did you know? People ain't just doing stuff for kicks. Like everybody has something they're dealing with. So I feel like that would be my thing of like, how can we put people in a place where it's more restorative so that when we're thinking about these relationships with children that folks are able to build them on a more sound platform instead of just being away and then coming back not better, and then that's why people be going in and out so much, like, you know. So yeah.
You're making me think about so I grew up in Inglewood, and I grew up in Inglewood in a time where most of the people I grew up with, like their siblings were raising them because their parents were incarcerated. And so I've always just in the back of my head thought about the boys I grew up with and how most of them are in prison now or they got involved in gangs, so they're no longer here with us. And so I'm always so curious about how if your father, speaking of Black men in particular, if your father was in prison, how that shows up in your life. And I was doing some research for the episode, and one of the stats is if your father was incarcerated, you're 6 times more likely to also be incarcerated or to be in gang involvement. And I think it makes sense because you start to think, because I'm thinking also about like clients and just conversations I've had with people, but you think about now that title thing, how your dad was supposed to be involved in your life in this particular way. How do I remain tied or connected to this person? Well, if they're in prison, I don't really have a fear of going to prison. And so that's oftentimes how
Right.
they end up there. Or I don't have community, so that's how they get involved in gang life. Or my dad is not in my life. I have nothing to lose. So now I'm involved with drugs, with gangs. I'm in and out of jail, in and out of prison, all of those things. And going back to you talking about the restorative approach of things, I wish that there was something within schools that directly targeted those people in particular who have fathers who are in prison and they may not feel a connection to community. Because I grew up in Inglewood in a time where all the resources that are here now, we didn't have. I remember when they tore down our YMCA, and that was a place where a lot of people went to play basketball. And instead of going to play basketball, they were going to hang out with the gangs at Rogers Park. And so I think about that because, again, like I shared, most of those boys are gone or they're in prison. But if we have more things in place that say, hey, let's come together, let's be supportive of each other, let's have these conversations, how different things would be because it's just
Yeah.
so sad. Yeah.
And I think it's also it can be like normalized in our communities because I'm thinking about my husband and like conversations that we've had. And for him, because he has seen so many men in his family and in his life going to jail, going to prison, it wasn't a big deal. And he even told me like when he would talk with his friends, like, yeah, when I go to jail, as if it was something that like that's just what you do. Like it's really a normalized part of growing up as a Black man, like in this world, like that's what you do. Right. And so it is about it's about also like what people are seeing in their family and thinking that and having it be normalized. People go in, they come out and almost just you get desensitized to it. It becomes no big deal. Um but yeah, that I feel like that wasn't my experience growing up. I was like, oh no, I'm not. I'm not trying to like I'm trying to stay actually overdo everything the opposite way, you know? But I know that's not how situations like this impact everybody.
Yeah. And I want to welcome you into our unpacking segment where we just reflect on what kind of came up for us in the episode. We all kind of share and just like reflect. I think for me, what's coming up is the ways in which I kind of thought about folks in prison because I listened to my podcast Ear Hustle. And I think this is like a real moment for me of being like, I kind of be judging. Like, how did you get there? Like, you are wrong for tearing apart your family. And again, when I was telling you, like, you're helping my brain develop, now I'm kind of coming out being like, you're human having a human experience. Like, that just keeps coming up for me. Cause again, like, I be thinking I'm not judging, but I do realize in the back of my head, I be thinking, wow, you really tore apart your family. Like, this is a you problem. Well, no, that's actually not true. There are other things that come into it and they play a role in the choices that we make, the circumstances that we end up in. What y'all got?
I mean, it's a lot of things that's coming up. One, as you all were talking about, um, you know, in the last episode too, I talk about how it is normalized. Anybody I know around me has been impacted where they know someone. My dad was incarcerated when I was young. He was only there for like 2 years, but I have vague little memories. I have cousins. It's a generational thing. It's happening. It is my worst fear to be locked up. Like when I think of I'm not claustrophobic, but just to think of someone having control over when I do anything and just being in this little box, you're with another person constantly, like you have to, you know, be in this like it freaks me out. And I think a lot of it has to do with it happening around me so much where it's like I'm terrified of that. It just makes me like horrified just thinking if I was to get locked up. I don't even know if how I would survive. Like, I feel like I would mentally go like crazy, you know, like which goes into being understanding of also what these people are going through, like this historical oppression of slavery and being enslaved folks, and then this incarceration piece of this control. Like, it's the mental trauma, like the historical mental trauma, and then to relive it, it just makes me think like I'm terrified. I'm terrified. And I wouldn't say that I live my life in this terrified state. Like I don't like, oh, like I can't because look, I be on the highway, going with the police. Hey, I'm going 75, 80 with y'all, you know. I'm not like terrified in that sense, but the thought of it happening, right? Like I don't want to be there, y'all. I just it freaks me out.
Yeah. I think I share a lot of those same feelings. And also I feel like what I'm realizing now in this conversation is that my dad was actually the only person as a child that I knew that was incarcerated. So it's not like it was something that was like, well, yeah, this person. And so for me growing up, it actually wasn't normalized. It was like I was kind of like I guess in that way, the odd person out of like having their dad be incarcerated. I think that same best friend in elementary school, her dad might have been too. So we also kind of shared that. But in terms of my family and like my community, it wasn't something that was normalized. It was kind of just this, I don't know, it was just like, all right, well, he's away. But then it's like, I don't know, it's like the story that you have of like, this is what life should be. You're supposed to have this person and it's supposed to be here. That's not real, y'all. Like, that's not how life is, you know? Life is whatever it actually is in the moment, whatever you're experiencing, like that is life. And like we can do a really good job of painting these like fantasies and romanticizing of like this is what it should be. But if one thing changes, everything changes. And then we, you know, it literally changes who we show up as. So like I shared before, like that's been the situation with my dad. I didn't grow up with him in my life in that way. I had some time with him. I'm grateful for that time. Um, yeah, and I'm proud of how I am and how I've shown up, and grateful for the village that I had around me to like raise me up. Yeah.
Are you like a yoga or sambo or Zen instructor or something?
Not yet, but I want to be this
Yeah,
year.
yeah. You're very mindfulness, present moment. Let's bring it to where we are. Like I hear it. Okay, you're
Right?
ready.
I
You go
received that this year. Hold me to it, and then when I do it, I'll come back on the show and we can talk about it. Cause yeah.
feel it. Yeah.
As we wrap up, we always ask our guests if they have any takeaways or homework. So, do you have any takeaways or homework for our guests?
Oh, homework, I would say document your life for yourself in whatever way feels good for you. And so for me, what it used to be was through writing. So like I shared, I have my diary entries from back when I was 10 or 11 all the way up until high school, and then around high school and college the entries kind of space out. But it's so beautiful for me to be able to go back and hear about my life firsthand, like not just through pictures or through videos, like from me saying like venting on this thing or like talking about this person that I was like dating, or this is what's happening with my family right now, or this is how I feel about this. And I recognize for myself that I had such a like emotional range even at like 12. At 12, I'm writing about like, yeah, here's what's going on in my health life and in my fitness life. And I'm like, you're 12. Like, what fitness life did you have? But it's like it's also indicative of how I am now. And so in many ways, at 36, I've always really been the same. And so that would be my thing, to document your life. So whether it is journaling or video or some type of way that you can like capture it and be able to go back to it just to see like how you moving through this thing, because it's a wild ride.
I love that. I started journaling when I was 5 because my mom always told me, like, it's so important for you to just write down your thoughts and stuff. And she sat me down and she's like, do this for as long as you can, whenever you can. I'll never read it. And I'd be like, huh. And so it's funny when I go back and read, and it's like, my mom didn't take me to go see the You Got Served movie. She doesn't think of me. My mom went and got crab legs. Does she care about me as her child? I'm gonna show her. And it's just so funny, like reading that and like just seeing like the things that were important, like how I thought during that time, and how like now it's like just the progression, right? Like you just see so much beauty when you write. And I'm appreciating you saying that, even down to like the way in which you write, because I have always written my diaries in cursive because I always said, most people can't read cursive, so if anybody ever finds this, they're gonna struggle to read what I wrote.
I love that.
Love that. Yes, yes. Anything else as we wrap up?
I I think on the journaling piece, like I don't know, maybe one day I will publish some of the things I've read, because the entries, they get juicy, y'all. But I've like, my hope is that like when I've like passed, that my family or whoever is around, my kids, like whoever, are able to just like read them and see, all the emotional range. Like I'm an open book. I'm down to share when asked, but I'm not always just like offering it up. But a lot of it is in my journal entries, in my phone, in my whatever. Like I'm documenting how I'm like feeling about things in real time. And so, yeah, that's been a big part of my like mental health journey, and just kind of like, grounding myself.
Make me think about Octavia Butler when the Altadena fires happened. They had an exhibit for her at the California African American Museum, and people always say like, oh, she was like a fortune teller, she was a psychic, she was all those things, and she always said, baby, I just study science and I just study like the ways in which things repeat themselves. But it was cool because at the museum they had like her diary entries, and it was really nice to just like get like a peek into her brain because she's just brilliant. So when you were saying you hope when you pass on, like they read it, and I was like, okay, you got some museum material there. I can't wait
I
to
think
like,
so.
hear a little bit more when you feel comfortable.
I'm down.
Yes, yes. Well, y'all, that is it for this week's episode of Black Women Healing Podcast. We hope you enjoyed.
Bye.
It's your favorite co-host, Danica and Myra, and we appreciate you all for listening to Black Women Healing Podcast.
If you like what you just heard, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe on all of our platforms, which can be found in the show notes.
We appreciate every type of engagement as it creates more exposure and helps our community get this healing on the daily.
See y'all next Monday. And don't forget, we are healing on
On the
the
daily.
daily.